Hey, everybody, welcome to a Chibi no Podcast review of the My Hero Academia World Heroes mission. As you can tell, it is not David the Smash fan talking today. This is Mr. Mister. And I have two special guests with me today, and they are.
Great guys, Japorian.
And mochi.
Yay! And Mochi. Japorian and Mochi. Well,
Yay!
the reason why my brother David isn't on today is because he's sick, so he didn't want to, give you his sick voice. But I digress. What we're doing is we're going to discuss about the My Hero Academia movie, The World's Heroes Mission, and just give you like a quick rundown, quick review, and how we felt and how the movie was and our overall score for the movie. So yeah, let's just start it off. Paul, tell us where you want to start off with this part for the movie for the review.
Well, should we go ahead and that will be the last time that we just put a score and then we can just talk about it?
Sure. Yeah. Give us your score.
I'll probably put this into maybe 5.5 or 6.
Mochi.
I would say 6.
You know what? We're pretty much on par. Yeah. After I give it some personal thought, I'm pretty much 6.5, probably 6. It 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 was an okay movie for the My Hero Academia uh third film. It was an okay movie. Um,
Yeah.
so let's get on to why we think it's an okay movie and why it's lackluster and what it was missing and what could be added to it. So let's get down to the where this film is taking place. This film is taking place after the training, right, Paul? Right about where that happens, where they're training with Endeavor.
Yeah, it's about the time that he goes into the agency with Bakugo and Todoroki,
Is
and
it
right before I believe My Villain Academia.
so? Is this because isn't My Villain Academia in between that part where they're training too?
Yeah, I do believe so.
Okay, so that's basically where the timeline of the movie set place. And what's going on with the well, obviously we're going to do some light spoilers. There is a would you call it a terrorist group?
Yeah, you can say that. And that was if you watch season 5, there is a particular episode at the very end that they actually show the leader of this organization.
They did, yes. So so
So
the
it's actually new.
yeah, so the terrorist organization, I guess we would call it, is a group called Humorize, and which is a dumb name, I guess, what I would say, but they are a group of quirkless individuals that um want to purge the world of people with quirks. Pretty much is the get go of this film, and the leader is obviously a guy who's blue. You can see it right then and there, so there's no avoiding it. Um, which you can obviously tell he's someone with a quirk. And they want to purge the people of quirks. And they believe in this kind of a quirk doomsday theory booklet, and they're trying to like I said again, they're trying to get rid of people with quirks, correct?
There, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and like the first part of it is actually pretty dark when you think about the movie for the first little bit. Like the first 10 minutes is pretty dark because they set off basically like a chemical warfare bomb in a city, and I guess it just enhances the people's quirks or regresses their quirk. It does something to the quirk where it just full on either regresses them to their quirk style or something, because there was one guy I saw that was funny in my opinion, where he turns into a turtle and then I guess he dies, but
Yeah.
it was just funny looking. And then I saw a guy with bird wings and he just grew, and it was really, when you think about it though, it's really traumatic, like very really dark. But wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And um right at the end too, like they were showing Deku in a kind of like a puddle of blood, and I thought that was pretty dark too. So this movie had like a couple of
Dark elements.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a very dark film
Yeah.
this time around. Which is kind
Although
of
I was gonna,
what?
I was gonna say from the get go, it seems like it gives you like a big premise, right? That something bad is gonna happen, and I think that's a good, interesting setup. But yeah, what happens after it's a little bit more of a, I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know how to describe
what's
it.
funny is like the first 10 minutes gets really very action packed, really heavy, really like this is the this is what the tone of the movie should be, and then they go to a city, Otheon, right? Is that what's called Otheon? Otheon? Yeah, Otheon.
Yeah. Oh, Ocean?
Yeah, and then it kind of really just loses all of its momentum right when you get to the city. It just stops dead in its tracks for a good 90, like good 80% of the film, would you say?
Yeah, yeah, you can definitely say. Well, most of the movie takes place in that. Although, you know, the title of this movie, it's a World Heroes Mission, so you're expecting to see heroes around the world fulfill this particular mission, which is trying to prevent another attack from this organization. But you don't actually get to see too much of it.
Yeah, you see just cameos here and there of like other heroes, and movie only heroes, I guess you would say, like the Egyptian guy or Bucket Man, which is funny. Um, but yeah, it was like I don't know, it just stopped dead in its tracks, and they started without going much into spoilers, but just where it goes off, it kind of just goes and talks about the movie character, the original movie character, and what's going on with their world, and how they interact with Deku and everybody from, Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki. Like how he mixes with those three, mainly more Deku than the other two, but that's pretty much where it goes from there, and it just goes into some wacky, what would you say, wacky moments, like playing cat, cat and
Yeah,
cat chasing the mouse and stuff, and it's kind of weird because it's weird because like I think Japorian and David talked about this in prior reviews on the My Hero season, but like the animation in the season of season 5 of My Hero was very lackluster. A lot of it was kind of meh. A lot of the story was removed. A lot of issues in general. Um, and I thought that okay, with this movie, then we should see top animation, we should see good story, we should see this and this and this. And I felt like a lot of the good animation in this film and the first part of it was used up so quick. Because there's a scene where like he's doing like Spider-Man moves and it looks clean, but then it's like the fluidity of the movements is clean, but the animation, like the art, was not. Do you agree with what I'm saying?
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Well, have a lot of comments on this. And even some of the animation decisions that they make. For instance, at the beginning of the movie, after they show the whole story, there's like a little opening sequence. And as we are watching this sequence, Mochi did mention this is very Avengers-like. They combine all the heroes, they show where they're at, where they're located, and you get to see like exactly where everybody is at the very beginning.
True.
It kind of sets you up for a lot of things, right? And you're like, okay, so I'm expecting to see a lot of action, a lot of like good events. I know it's really quick. There are some areas in where everybody's located, and then part of the animation they actually show Mirio in it at the very beginning. I'm like, wait a second, Mirio's gonna be here.
Yeah.
Like, okay, they amp it up a little bit into that. I'm like, okay, so I'm expecting to see him in the future, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, well,
No, I agree with you there. It's weird because like you were like what Mochi was saying is, like I did feel that there was an Avengers intro. Like I was waiting for like the Avengers theme song. Dun 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 dun. I was waiting for the Avengers music to come into it. Um, it's funny because Horikoshi's a big like American comic book fan, right? With like superheroes. That's what like basically inspired My Hero Academia. But like
yeah.
it really showed it this time around. Don't you feel like, even though we didn't like the movie so far, like this kind of felt more of like an American superhero movie, but like not as good story told wise.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I was gonna say on that, like, okay, I'm not gonna to talk too much about like what's to come, but they did mention a lot of locations and a lot of places of My Hero Academia, and like that's kind of interesting. But when they mention a particular location, it's like, are they gonna mention something that's gonna happen in the future? Something that will be expected from the manga and all that?
Yeah, I was worried about spoilers from the manga because they did that with the last movie. But look, it seemed like
Yeah,
everything was pretty inside its own
contain.
world. Yeah, it was very contained,
Yeah,
and I wasn't upset with that. I think it was smart how they did it. Wouldn't you agree?
yeah, definitely. I do feel like that's a particular setup, and I don't know. Something on my biggest complaint, I guess. Well, I have a lot of things to say on that, but if you watch the trailer, you get to see them like showing up the really cool costume. Like, oh yeah, this is something big is gonna happen, right? And as soon as you join and see part of the opening, you get to see that cool costume and all. But that only like what lasted maybe like 5 to 10 minutes, maybe less than that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
all the hype on that, the kind of
that was annoying because like the whole costumes are like, we're showing off these costumes. This is so cool. You guys like these costumes? And it's like, this is only in it for 30 seconds. It's like, really? This is what you're gonna do to us? Like, you're showing all this crap off, and this is what we get. This is garbage. Yeah, the costumes themselves were really cool. It's just I didn't like that they were not in there that long.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but furthermore, just going more into the film without like I said, without too many spoilers, the middle part of the film I think is its weakest because I feel like 40 minutes of that film could have been just cut out because it feels like it's obviously Deku is interacting with the original movie character, and they're just communicate. They're building a relationship is how they do it with films. Deku's the hero that inspires people, and so they're building their relationship in that part of the middle of the film. Um, and for me personally, I feel like it was 38 minutes too long in the middle part where Deck is building the relationship with the hero, with not with the hero, with the movie character. I don't know. What do you think, host? By the way, he joined in.
What's up, fellas?
Oh,
I just caught the tail end of that. You said that Midoriya was creating a relationship with whom?
The main the
The
homeless
guy with the
kid.
bird?
Yeah, Birdman.
Rudy.
What do I think about the relationship that they were building?
What do you? So I was saying earlier is I felt like 40 minutes of the middle part of the film was its weakest in my opinion, because I felt like they were just building relationship between him and Deku, and I felt like it was 38 minutes too long in that part. That's how I felt.
Yeah, we're doing spoilers, I'm assuming, or no?
We're gonna do light spoilers first, and then afterwards we can go into spoilers more.
Okay, not too spoilerish, I guess, but I agree with you. It was stale. It was a bit more boring in the middle because of that relationship building. But I think that's all due to building up towards the end, the climax, and what happens. So it was a character development moment. It just took a little bit too long, but once you see the end, you're like, okay, I kind of see where they were going with this.
Correct. But do you feel like they could have
I'm gonna
condensed
say, I'm gonna
that?
be honest. I don't know.
Continue. Go.
Oh no. Well, in my particular case, I'm gonna be honest with you, Mister, and you know, host. I kind of actually fell asleep halfway through the movie because of that part.
You fell asleep because
I
of
don't
that?
usually, yeah, I don't usually fall asleep into movies like that. Like my wife have to wake me up because I was actually asleep right in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, I was, and maybe I shouldn't spoil it, but like in the middle, I was like, oh, there, I wanted to communicate with him how it could be cool. So I was like, I looked to the right and he's sleeping, so I had to wake him up and say, look,
No, I
Yeah, I
get
will
you.
say during that part too. I mean, there's other characters such as Bakugo and Todoroki. Like, given again, I don't know how much you've spilled, so I'm going to keep it pretty vague. But they should have been excuse me, to figure things out much more quickly. And I felt they tried to use that part as a place for the other two characters, Todoroki and Bakugo, to like figure out the mystery or the accusations. But those two are pretty smart, and it made them look even dumber because it took forever to figure out. I feel, at least.
I agree with you there. It was funny because it's like when Deku sends a coded message to Todoroki.
yeah.
It's pretty like, yeah, this is a pretty easy code, and he's like, this makes it more harder than last time. Like, if that girl just barely glancing at your phone can figure out this coded message, like, they kind of made Todoroki the dumb one, and then Bakugo, obviously he's the angry guy, but he's just more angry in this film than normal, like where he's not giving proper input of trying to be helpful.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
he's clearly obviously touted as like a pretty much a genius, right? Like
Yeah,
his level IQ is extremely high. So for them to downplay just because he's an angry guy was kind of insulting
yeah. Like
for both of them.
the only time you could see like Bakugo's true genius is towards the end of the film, where he's like trying. When you guys are like, you find out what the whole
It's
premise of
the
Deku
best
and
part of the
Rody.
thing, I think.
It's cool, yeah, because he's like, oh, let me do this, and it's like, oh, okay, well, there you go. He really is smart, and yeah, it's just they downplayed those two. It was annoying because it was like and it sounds weird because I'm a big Dragon Ball fan, but I felt like this was like the Deku show, this movie. Not like, how Dragon Ball Super or Dragon Ball Z was like, this is the Dragon Ball show. I mean, this is the Goku show, not Dragon Ball. That's how I felt with this movie. It was just the Deku show, and it's like these guys are just there. I don't know.
And I want to say something else about another character that got sidetracked or undermined. Like Endeavor itself, I think in this movie he looks very comical,
Yeah, he had
and
no
I don't know,
power.
like it doesn't seem it's up to his character at the moment. I think he could be a little more serious when it comes to the situation, but I don't know. I think he got like
They the
put to
thing
the side as well.
the thing is with with the movie trailer itself and the people they showed, they gave you so many promising heroes and promising characters to enjoy, but they had no screen time, little to no screen time, maybe a minute or 2 minutes altogether. Hell, they showed a picture of Mirio in the beginning of the movie, and he's maybe in there 30 seconds max.
Not even. I pretty sure he
And
just
even
it
in the
shows
end
him, but he
credits,
contributes nothing.
Yeah, and it's like,
right?
why would you tease us? Like our boy Kenpachi Ramasama, he is a Mirio stan, and he's like, yeah, in the theater, like, yeah, Mirio, and nothing, just cold dick him the whole time. But continuing forward, like, just so let's get past the middle part. They do their thing. They get to know each other. Deku leaves his impression on Rhodey, and la di da di da. And then they get towards the end where they find out what's going on, because obviously in the trailers, Deku's being charged as a murderer of so many people. Rhodey's involved with it, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And then they figure out the issue, and that's when the better part of the film starts kicking in. And this really shows you that, like, I don't know. It shows, like we were saying earlier, Bakugo figures out some things that they didn't know how to figure out, and then all of a sudden, Rhodey has a secret talent that he says he likes to look at and hopes he can do. Okay, basically, we'll go to this part. Spoiler here. He wants to be a pilot. He's never flown a plane, and he flies a plane with no effort, and he gets to where they need to go. I I was like, this is such bullshit, but I'll take it because it's anime and it's a movie, so I'll take it. I'll take it.
Like I feel like they just put out so many elements that were very loosely connected or not connected at all. Like I feel like maybe I wasn't paying too much attention at first, but Rhodey never really he wasn't introduced as a character that had interest in piloting, right? At first, and it just all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I want to be a pilot, like in the middle of the movie out of nowhere.
Yeah, we
And
get
I
his
feel like
background.
it happened with so many other side characters too.
Yeah, apparently Rhodey is pretty fast and Deku with his black whip.
Right?
I was like, that's
Yeah, yeah. There were so many things that didn't make sense, but my other complaint was that this girl was in the trailer too, but the villain woman with the arrows, she looked like a really cool character, but they just didn't really show any background story of her. Like
Agreed. I wanted
they,
more from her.
yeah, definitely. And then they introduce these other villains all of a sudden at the end.
they are really powerful, but no backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they give you like yeah, like you were saying, the Archer chick, great, lots of promise, and I thought we were gonna get some more into like why does she want to be part of this group? What's her reason behind it? It's like, no, I failed, and then just seppuku myself, and it's like, come on, man, really? It was yeah.
It
I'm
wasn't
hating. I'm
seppuku,
hating.
but
Well,
yeah.
I mean, she offed herself.
She offed herself. Yeah.
It's just, there's too many loose ends in this film.
Yeah.
I don't know. I keep bagging on the film, but there's some good moments. There's a lot of good moments. Let's get to the
Yeah.
fighting scenes.
I was gonna say,
Go.
What can I
Paul?
say before we get into the fighting scenes? Much to your point, I did like it a lot, but I think my brother and I were discussing that like the beginning of the movie, it seemed to have like all this built-in anticipation, and it just maybe the halfway mark, the middle part where Vaporeon fell asleep, it just went nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Like it did good at world building, the anticipation of like, okay, this villain's gonna be intense, and like this entire cult is gonna have they're going to give the heroes a lot of trouble, and it kind of stimmies down to just three heroes doing something specifically, which ends up in the fight scene that we'll discuss, I'm sure.
mm,
Yeah. So let's just move on to the towards the end of the film. They go to the island that they need to go to stop the obviously when we were talking about it, they in the beginning of the film, the group sets off a chemical bomb with the quirk things. So they're gonna set it off all over the world. I cannot speak today, and that's what they're trying to do. We'll get to that part. That's the spoiler part for right there, and they land, and this is where we start getting a lot more action. We get to see like every Bakugo, Deku, and Todoroki when they start fighting these other villains, and how and like this is where you see some of the animation kick up a notch. Correct?
yeah,
Agreed.
we'll agree on that.
Which one was your favorite fight of the three, and which one was the weakest one?
I don't even know if you could argue this, but weakest one Todoroki, best one Bakugo.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that.
Yeah, I second that to him a lot. Like
Yeah.
there are parts that you can actually see he's physically like hurt, which it shows a lot more than the other My Hero Academia movies. But at the end, he was able to show up and show all his new skills and all. It looked really cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
I have an issue with what they're doing to Midoriya because clearly Midoriya never had a quirk, and the beginning of the entire show, they kind of tout him actually as being very smart himself, right? But I feel like they copy and paste a lot of his fights where it's just he realizes he's underhanded, then he has to go beyond plus ultra, which is part of the show, it's fine. But he doesn't employ tactics. Like even during the fight, if are we going to spoil yet or no?
we can get to the
Well,
spoiler
now,
part. Yeah, we're fine. I think you're fine to spoil.
well, like
I mean, we already
every
talked about what's
quirk has a
happening.
limit, right?
So might as well.
Yeah, like every quirk has a limit,
Right.
and then like he doesn't necessarily realize that. He's just like, how am I gonna beat this guy? It's like, well, based on his quirk, you're just gonna have to outpunch his quirk at some point. Like, I know the other two would have figured it out. Like Todoroki and Baku were like, okay, I get what his quirk is. I'm just gonna have to push him to his limit. Where Deku made it seem like there was no way around it. Oh, this guy's just unbeatable, and his Beyond Plus Ultra is what saves him. It's like, nah, not really. He didn't employ a lot of strategic action. I mean, he gets hit a couple times when he shouldn't have because they were stationary turrets that he could have immediately taken out first, but he only took him out when Rhodey shows up. It's like, come on, guy.
True. Also, on top of that, like, I mean, we can go back to season like 2 or 3 when they're doing their training. like you have to train your quirk in order to get for it to get stronger. And I'm assuming this bad guy did not really train his quirk, so he shouldn't have had this long of an edge compared to Deku. You know what I mean?
Yeah, who would he have trained against? Because he would have been on the radar for far too long.
Yeah,
But
right?
I just felt they
I
made
mean, he was
Midoriya
born OP.
stupid.
No. I do agree with that. Not to mention, if you actually go back to the anime, they did mention like Midoriya. If you go full power, it's gonna affect you, right? You shouldn't be doing this. And of course, this is what happens in the movie. Like
yeah. My
movie
brother,
logic.
my brother David said that, like, yeah, if you go full power again, it's gonna hurt your body. But it's like, no, it's okay. It's a movie. It's like, really?
Yeah.
The power.
And then Todoroki's wasn't much of a fight. Like there was a few cutscenes where he was maneuvering, but he spent a lot of time underwater, and then he does 3 moves and takes out the guy. So I wish they would have developed the fight a bit more. They really focused on action
Yeah,
versus reaction and
also
fights
that.
with Bakugo.
And I gotta say, it would be cool to actually like have a background, maybe like a small background story on the enemies that they were fighting because they were really cool. It's just like I wish they have a little bit more meat into it to know who they are before they get into a fight, rather
Yeah.
than just show some like, hey, this is your movie filler character you need to fight. By the way, he's really powerful. By the way, just you don't know his motives, but you have to destroy him.
It's
Stuff
funny.
like
Or
that.
even just heroes that struggled with him in the past, right? Like, oh, these couple heroes fought this guy and barely made it out alive.
Exactly.
Just something to give us a tangible, like, oh, we know what Bakugo and Todoroki and Midoriya are up against, like the level of eliteness that are these villains.
What was funny was like there's a scene where what I can't remember what the main bad guy's name is, but he's walking away and you see
His
that
name,
guy
It's Fleck Turner or something
Fleck,
like that.
yeah, Fleck turn. Well, you see Fleck is walking away, and you see the horn guy that Todoroki fights walking past him, like, oh, and then right away, when I saw him, like, he's a guy that somebody's gonna fight big time. Like right away, I was like, that is a side character that's gonna cause somebody trouble. Who? I don't know, but it's somebody. Lo and behold, it was Todoroki. Did not see the sword guys or the whatever the sword whip dudes for Bakugo. I didn't see them
The
beforehand.
twins.
Yeah, I didn't see them beforehand, so I don't know if they were shown previously or not. But yeah,
I don't think so. I think they show at the very end, and long before you know it, boom, have a sacred form, and they like power up again.
I love that they showed him using the trigger
oh yes,
Right? That was really cool.
because it's like the guy realized, okay, without this, I'm not gonna beat this kid, and they did a lot. I don't know if it was intentional, but I felt the focus was for sure on Bakugo as far as fight developing scene.
no, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, going back with Deku too, like his fight, of course, it looked pretty cool. Okay, I'm not gonna deny that. But if you think about it, like we were talking about, there was no logic. And at one particular point, he started doing a JoJo reference, doing all the non-stop punches. I was looking at my wife when that happened, like, oh, this is a JoJo reference because he's doing like multiple punches,
Yeah.
like JoJo.
Does he say
Not to
ora
mention, there's a
ora in the Japanese dub?
I think he does. I'm trying to remember. Maybe not. I want to believe it because it looked just like that. But there was one part that he multiplies himself like 3 times.
Yeah, and he
Copy
just
and
keeps
paste it.
punching. Yeah.
Right. And the thing about this, in like halfway between the movie when they're Bakugo and Todoroki were to follow Deku's clues, there's policemen who were trying to follow him, right? And right before that, you see some policemen coming from a corner. And before you know it, you only see one policeman, but then they just multiply, like copy and paste. And I was like pointing out to my wife as well because it looked very silly.
Yeah.
And like somebody just copy and paste those policemen just to make it look like there are like many more in there. So
And not
Yeah.
to mention like this that they suck at following. Like everyone, people they're gonna know.
oh yeah, what happened to them?
Huh?
They just
I don't know.
disappear.
But, yeah.
Stylistically, their budget was clearly on Midoriya's fight scene, though. Like, not that Todoroki's and Bakugo's didn't look clean, but as far as like the different psychedelic colors, the different I get the thing where you see him multiply himself and just have the multiple punches involved. I think a lot of the budget went just to that fight as opposed to the other two.
Well, also, like I was saying earlier before you joined in, is the one when he starts doing his spider web swinging in the beginning of the film. Like
Oh
that's
yeah,
a lot of budget was on that. It was kind of funny.
it was on a seemingly. I mean, it
Mm,
sets up
yeah,
the story, but it's not hyper important compared to, I guess, the end of the film. At least I would not say so.
No, I agree. But overall, like at towards the end, like
yeah.
it was
I do
getting
have a
good.
question though.
Sure, what?
Yeah, I was gonna ask a question specifically to Host right here because he has watched My Hero Academia season 5. You did finish, right?
Yes, I have.
So between the story and animation, compare this with the anime. What's your take on that?
I just a couple scenes. You can tell that there was a good budget, but aside from that, I felt it was the same, if not somewhat a little bit less. They felt like it was a bit cheap at some points.
Agreed.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to know on that perspective because I know
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that love My Hero Academia, and they haven't read the manga and they don't know what's coming next. But it seems to me like if I were to stand from a bystander who hasn't, let's say, watched or know what's to come, this season and the movie has been really wobbly per se when it
yeah.
comes to their story.
The dip in animation, and then the
Yeah, it was some scenes looked great and then others didn't, and that's where I pointed out the difference between the fight scenes of Midoriya versus the other two. And I like the dialogue much better, of course, with Bakugo. Granted, again, he's the angry guy, but he was, I think, just showing his character as far as like he's a hero. It's undoubtable he's a hero,
Mm,
but he's not your conventional hero where he's humble, right? He's like, I'm here to be the best. I'm going to show you I'm the best. And even says it to the guy. He's like, you must not realize you're messing with the best.
yes, and that's what I like
And
about him.
yeah, and then the guy does the trigger, and he says something like, "Oh, you want to get crazy? I'm right there with you." Like he's not backing down at all, and it's great. Like where other people would be like, "Fuck, he's going on
right.
again. He's getting a boost." He's like, "No, here we go."
Agree. I did like that part because I enjoyed that they were just fighting nonstop, just and then especially when the blood gets in his eyes, he looks super psychotic. It was
Yeah,
it's
but he
creepy.
won't
Yeah,
back down.
that was a pretty cool fight. I think that's why I said like it seemed like at the very beginning of the movie, it seems like a darker tone, right in the middle, kind of like meh, but then
Mhm.
it kind of picks it up, the darker tone into what the fight is, which was really awesome.
But yeah, I
You know,
mean, so host in the beginning we gave our initial score. Everyone was pretty much like a 6 or 6.5. What would you rate this movie?
When I walked out of the theater, I wanted to say 7.5, maybe 8, but as the day has progressed and I've thought about the movie more, probably 6.5. No, you know what? 7. And it's because I'm such a Bakugo fanboy, and the fact that they finally let him shine. Like the fight scene was so incredible. I think it made up for a lot of the stuff I felt I lacked in the movie because I think that they've always decided. I still feel they gypped Todoroki a little bit actually, but the fact that they allowed him to shine in it really made a big impact for me. So 7.
Okay, so what 6.5? I guess it would be total if you no probably 6 still, but it's not bad. I mean,
right. Yeah,
you're cutting out, Paul. What?
You're breaking up.
I'm gonna mention that the thing that I really enjoyed was at the very end, was when the whole fight was over and they were like wrapping everything up. See Deku and what's his name, Brody,
Rhodey. Uh-huh.
say their goodbyes, and they're like showing like they really care about each other, even though it was a short trip of events. But I felt like that part was really cool because you don't get
Naruto
to see
moment.
that too much about.
It was
Yeah,
a Naruto moment.
Because well, I mean, the middle part was basically Naruto, where he just talks to him the whole time and influences him to
talk
be better,
Nobitsu.
right? Yeah. So I did like the end too. It was kind of a nice wrap. Like you don't see that usually in movies.
Yeah. Um. So I would say this. For what would you guys recommend it? But I'll go first on this. Um. for me personally, you don't need to watch the film. You'll enjoy the film. I think personally you will enjoy it. I don't think you'll love it. It doesn't add or take away from the main storyline, and it didn't give you any slight spoilers like the last movie did. This one I felt like more of like a, I said this before, like the Dragon Ball Z movies are like what if stories kind of a thing, and they don't really pertain to the story. Like they take stuff from the main timeline, like if Goku turns Super Saiyan or Gohan turns Super Saiyan, they add that story element to it. But that's about it. Where this is kind of what I felt like this movie was just its own storyline.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's not canon then? That's I meant to ask that earlier. Like, does this affect anything at all? It's not canon,
No,
or it is?
I don't know, to be honest.
I don't think so. But I can tell this much: some of the illustration for the characters have been done by the creator of My Hero Academia. And
Yes.
not to mention, for all the people that went to watch the movie, at least in America, in our theater, we were able to get like a little booklet that has like a little bit of more additional info. At first, I thought it was sort of like manga in a way, and there is a little panel with a short story in it. But it does say that this has Horikoshi's approval. I don't know specifically into the movie itself because there's some other director into the movie who handles all of that. But as far as character creation, I think Horikoshi has some intake on that.
So then, Paul, would you recommend it?
So,
What was that? You're cutting out.
I was gonna say, if you like My Hero Academia, I'll definitely recommend just watching it. Maybe once, maybe don't have to pay. Wait until it gets into the streaming services. Because it doesn't add or remove anything to it. It's just like another story. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend like, oh yeah, go and watch the movie so many times in the movie theater. I mean, you could if you want to, but I think as overall, My Hero Academia, it felt like a really weak story with really cool animations from time to time.
I'd recommend just for the fight scenes. And I forgot to mention this, but there was because we know that Deku is supposed to unlock different quirks, which I'm still not a fan of. But in that one fight with Fleck Turn or whatever his name is, I swear, like when he was, when he was giving up, and you see the lights of like all the one for all kind of flashing. I'm like, oh great, here comes his other quirk that
Mhm.
he's going to manifest, but it didn't happen. So that was a surprise
I
for
was
me. I thought
actually
they were going to manifest another quirk.
I was hoping that, and it didn't.
I was thinking that too, and I was like, what are they going to manifest that we haven't seen yet? Because in the manga, we're ahead. I was like, what are they going to show that we've already seen? Like they can't, I'm like, what are they going to show? But luckily they didn't. He just, he basically just pulled out the power out of his butt, and he's like, I can do this. So
Yeah,
I was
which I
good.
prefer. That's the idea of one for all. But anyways, I digress. I encourage it. Just watch the fight scenes. Feel free to forward until you see a fight scene. The story is a
I
bit
agree.
weak.
Yeah, the fight scenes were really cool. And if I were to add something, if they were to do like when they release the movie on DVD or Blu-ray or streaming services, I wish they add a little bit more about the other people, all the other heroes that we were wanting to see. Like I wanted to see Hawks in action a lot more, and I'm kind of disappointed because apart from Bakugo, which is also my favorite character, Hawks falls second to me. So I wish they could, if they were to a little bit more into it, I think it would be really awesome. I don't know, to see a little more of your favorite character.
Well, this is why it sucked. Is because a lot of those, obviously, some of them are really good at this, but most of them are brawlers or good at fighting, and they made them reconnaissance people. So only the three, being Todoroki, Midoriya, and Bakugo, really showed off their fighting skills. Everyone else really didn't show off fighting skills. They were just being reconnaissance, which that's where it falls short.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But yeah, guys, I guess that was our review of the My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission. Um, definitely, if you want to, go check it out. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't change anything. But yeah, I think you'll enjoy the film overall.
I was
Or-
gonna say, and how about I ask Mochi about her take on the movie?
Oh, whoa, sorry, my bad. What do you think?
Talked about most of the things I thought about. So yeah, I don't know.
Would you recommend it to people?
Uh, I don't know. I would say if you guys have been following with manga and the anime series and with the previous movies, I'd say just watch it just so you can you can see you've watched all of it, everything. But to someone who hasn't who's not as familiar with My Hero, I don't know if I would recommend it just because it's not a good representation of how the series can be good, like how good the series can be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say this: if you're a diehard My
I
Hero
do have another
fan, go
question.
watch it. What's up?
Yeah, how would you guys rank it compared to the other movies?
It's the worst one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's
I
the
was-
worst.
Yeah,
one.
I'm with him 100%. It is the worst of the three. At first I thought it was just slightly less than the second because I like the second one the best, to be honest. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, it's the weakest one of the three.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for me, second movie will number one, then the first movie, and lastly this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the same ranking too.
So yeah, people, just so you know, I know we're giving it a hard time. It's just we are big critiques because we really do love this franchise and we do want nothing but the best for it. But we do need
I
to.
think we're
we
being
do,
fair.
yeah, I just
Like when you watch it, you'll see it because it is underwhelming. I think they shortchange most of the heroes, including the three that are there. It shortchanges them. So
it's true. I just want people to know that we're not trying to just be a. This is not a bashing at video. But yeah, just
No, yeah,
that's how it
we
is.
like My Hero Academia. I think all of us.
Exactly. Like you cut out. But
It's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
We like the.
Yeah, but yeah, that's it, people. We hope you enjoyed this review of Chibino podcast of the My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission. I keep wanting to say World's Hero Mission, but it's just not what it is. But you guys can find us on Facebook at Chibino Podcast, on Twitter at Chibino Podcast, capital C, capital N, capital P, on Instagram on Chibino Podcast at capital C, capital N, capital P, and YouTube, obviously, because you found this video here. But yeah, give us a like and review and tell us if we were wrong, because then we'll tell you you're wrong. But that's another thing we can talk about later. But yeah, this is a Chibino Podcast, and we're
Yeah.
out, guys.